Okay, let's dive in. We're talking staying active today.
Right.
And if you're thinking about getting that heart rate up, maybe building a bit of strength, shedding some pounds, cardio is probably top of mind.
Definitely.
And two really common, simple options, running and cycling. We've got these sources you shared that really dig into comparing them.
Yep. They frame both as really solid choices for health, for burning calories.
So this deep dive then is about unpacking all that material.
Exactly. The mission here is to pull out the key differences, the real insights from these sources comparing running and cycling.
So you can figure out which one might fit your own fitness goals, right? Or maybe even both.
Precisely.
Okay, so first thing, usually the big question, calories. How many are you actually burning? What did the material say there?
Well, it's interesting. There's a bit of nuance. The sources point out that for shorter durations, like minute for minute,
Mm-hmm.
at the same kind of effort level, running tends to burn more calories than cycling.
Okay, per minute. That's a key distinction. Why is that? What's the reason given?
The explanation is basically that running just involves more of your body moving, against gravity. It's
Right.
using more joints, putting more load on muscles with every stride. It just takes more energy, right, than
Yeah.
compared to cycling, where the bike's doing some of the work, so to speak.
Okay, that makes sense. More total body effort, moment to moment. But the sources didn't just stop there, right? They talked about how long you can do it.
Exactly. That's the flip side. While running might win that per minute comparison,
Yeah.
the sources note you can often cycle for much longer stretches without getting as wiped out or feeling that same impact.
Mm-hmm.
So over a longer workout, or maybe across a whole week, you could actually end up burning more total calories if you're cycling consistently for longer periods.
I see. So it's not just about the intensity in the moment, but also about, well, how long you can realistically keep it up.
That's a huge factor, yeah. The sources really stress that.
Definitely something to think about when planning a routine. Okay, now let's shift gears a bit. Joint health. This is a big one for a lot of people. Running kind of has a reputation, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. And the sources, well, they confirm this. They highlight the stress running puts on your ankles, your knees, hips, even your lower back.
Yeah.
Every single step hits the ground.
Ouch.
Yeah. Now, they do mention, sort of in passing, this impact might help build bone density and muscle strength around the joints over time.
Okay, potential upside.
But the main focus in the material is definitely on the risk. Things like shin splints, runner's knee, even stress fractures, especially if you're pounding pavement, hard surfaces, or maybe don't have the right shoes.
So yeah, higher risk of wear and tear or just getting hurt. How does cycling stack up in comparison according to these sources?
This is really where cycling shines in the material we looked at. It's described as being, much smoother, way gentler on the joints.
Low impact.
Exactly. The sources specifically flag it as a great choice if you already have some joint pain, maybe arthritis, or if you're recovering from an injury. It helps protect those vulnerable spots like knees and hips because you don't have that pounding.
That low impact aspect seems like a clear win for cycling if joint longevity is a worry. Okay, what about muscles then? Which ones get worked most in each activity?
According to the sources, there's actually quite a lot of overlap. Both running and cycling really hit the main muscles in your legs.
Like,
Calves, hamstrings, glutes, quads, the big movers.
okay, so the main leg engines are firing in both. Any differences highlighted?
Yeah, few. Running, the sources say, demands quite a bit more from your core muscles.
For stability.
Exactly. For stability, balance, keeping good posture while you're moving. And they also mention that consistent running will gradually build up strength in the leg muscles overall and, importantly, strengthen your heart too.
Makes sense. And cycling, apart from those same leg muscles.
Well, for cycling, while it uses those same groups, the sources point out it's especially good for building strength in the quads and glutes,
Oh, interesting.
particularly when you add resistance, like climbing hills or shifting into a harder gear.
Right.
And they add a little detail. If you're sitting on the bike, your core isn't working quite as hard as in running,
Mhm.
but if you stand up on the pedals for sprints or hills, you actually bring your upper body into it more.
Ah, good point. So how you ride makes a difference too. Okay, moving to overall fitness goals,
Hmm.
weight management, fat loss. The sources seem pretty clear both are effective.
Oh, definitely. Both are presented as really strong tools for reducing body fat and managing weight.
Any specifics on running?
The material suggests running, probably because of that higher calorie burn per minute we talked about,
Uh-huh.
can lead to pretty quick fat loss results if it's done regularly and, of course, paired with watching your calorie intake through diet.
Right, diet's always part of the equation. And how does cycling fit into weight management according to the sources?
Cycling's benefit for weight loss is often framed around its sustainability.
Because it's lower impact.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Since it's easier on the body, less potential for next day soreness maybe, people might find it easier to do it more often, more consistently, stick with it long term. And that consistency, the sources just keep coming back to this, is absolutely vital for losing weight and keeping it off, plus enjoyment. If you actually like doing it, you're way more likely to be consistent.
Consistency really is the magic word, isn't it? And speaking of liking it and sticking with it, mental and emotional benefits, the sources touch on that too, right? Huge for overall health.
Yes, and this is an area where the sources show a really clear shared benefit. Both running and cycling get highlighted for triggering endorphin release.
The feel-good chemicals.
Precisely. Natural mood boosters. Really helpful for managing stress, easing anxiety, even fighting off feelings of depression.
That runner's high or just feeling great after a ride. Did the sources describe the type of feeling differently at all?
They did, actually. Yeah. A nice little distinction. Running outdoors was sometimes described as feeling kind of soothing, centering, almost meditative for some.
Okay.
Cycling outdoors, on the other hand, was often linked to this feeling of freedom, being carefree, exploring.
Different vibes, but both sound pretty good for the head.
Absolutely. Both really positive for mental well-being.
I can definitely see that. Okay, last big area, practical stuff, accessibility. According to the sources, how easy is it to just, start running versus start cycling?
Running comes out as super accessible in the material. The barrier to entry is really low.
Like just need shoes.
Essentially, yeah. A decent pair of shoes, and you can do it almost anywhere, anytime. Treadmill, local park, just out your front door on the sidewalk, loads of options.
And cycling takes a bit more prep.
A bit more planning, generally, yes. You obviously need a bike and a helmet for safety.
Crucial.
And you need a safe place to actually ride, which, depending on where you live, isn't always right outside your door. The sources do mention alternatives, like indoor stationary bikes or spin classes. But, as they point out, those usually mean needing space at home or paying for a gym or class membership.
Right. Cost or space can be a factor there. So just pure get up and go, simplicity, running often wins on logistics.
That's generally the picture painted by the sources, yeah.
Okay, wow. That covers a lot. Calories, joints, muscles, weight, mental side, getting started. So pulling it all together now, how do the sources actually help someone decide? What's the guidance?
Well, they basically synthesize all those comparison points into a kind of decision guide.
Okay.
If your main goal is maybe faster initial weight loss, or you're really into intense, fast interval training, or maybe you're looking for those potential bone strengthening benefits, keeping the injury risk in mind, of course, then the sources seem to lean you towards running.
And cycling gets the nod if.
Cycling is strongly suggested if joint pain is a real issue for you, or if you're recovering from an injury, or, honestly, if you just prefer a gentler, lower-impact workout that still gives you great endurance and weight loss results over time.
Makes sense. The source also had that slightly odd mention of step.
Yeah, that was a bit unclear, possibly referring to step aerobics as another accessible cardio option for beginners, but focusing back on running and cycling.
Right, the main comparison. It really sounds like the sources are saying there's no single best answer. It's more about personal fit.
Absolutely. That's the loudest message coming through all the material we looked at. The best exercise, whether it's running or cycling, is the one you enjoy enough to stick with consistently.
Consistency again.
Always. And they even make a really good point about maybe incorporating both into your routine.
Oh, mixing it up.
Yeah, to prevent boredom, work your body in slightly different ways, and maybe lower the risk of those overuse injuries you can get from doing just one thing over and over.
That makes a ton of sense, actually.
It really does.
Yeah.
So the sources conclude, basically, that there's no winner here. Running versus cycling isn't a battle one has to win. The right choice is deeply personal. It depends on your goals, your body's condition right now, what you genuinely like doing, and, frankly, what fits into your life.
But the underlying message is powerful.
Yeah.
Committing to either one or both
is going to have huge positive effects on your physical health, your focus, your energy, Definitely.
So looking back at everything from the sources, the real takeaway isn't about picking a champion between running and cycling.
Not at all.
It's more about understanding yourself, your body, your goals, what you enjoy, and finding the activity or maybe the mix that you can realistically build into your life day after day.
That's it, exactly.
Yeah.
Weighing those factors we discussed, calorie goals, joint health concerns, muscle focus, the mental boost you're after, and just plain old accessibility. That's the process.
And maybe the most profound insight from all this material isn't even about running or cycling specifically. Maybe it's just about the fundamental value of consistent movement itself.
Could be. Just choosing to get moving, whether it's lacing up shoes or clipping into pedals, whichever feels right for you on a given day, and doing it regularly. That seems to be the real path to unlocking all those health benefits.
Or perhaps, like the sources suggested, the real key is embracing that variety. Using both running and cycling over the long term to keep things fresh and balanced. Something for everyone listening to think about as they plan their next workout.